I will now say a few words about this evening's event. This is the first postgraduate event focused on Albanian studies organized by PROLang, following another successful event organized 1 year ago, highlighting Albanian studies around the globe. Dr. Mirela Xhaferraj, language tutor in Albanian evening classes here at SSEES, also teaching Albanian and Greek for other famous establishments such as the Foreign and Commonwealth Office and the International House, and an established published translator of several books. I'll quote a few. Kapelat Prejkashte by Margarita Liberaki, which she translated from Greek into Albanian, and Tsigaria e Fundit by Lena Manda, that she translated from Greek into Albanian, as well as currently working on the translation of the Booker Prize winner of 2021, The Promise, by Damon Gelgat, that is being translated from English into Albanian. Mirela is the moderator and the main organizer of today's event. Thank you, Mirela, for all your hard work. Today, we are honored by the presence of two ambassadors, His Excellency Ambassador Mr. Uran Feridzi of the Republic of Albania and His Excellency Ambassador Mr. Ilir Kapiti for the Republic of Kosovo, as well as by the presence of the SSEES Director, Professor Richard Mole. This is a crucial time for the whole world to connect and to collaborate long-term through educational endeavors that impact our world. And this is what we are doing here today for postgraduate Albanian studies. We'll have a question and answer session at the end. For the audience online, please type your questions in the Q&A box. We'll answer them at the end. This event is being recorded as well. And at the end of the evening, we'll have a glass of wine and continue the conversation in a relaxed way. It's a pleasure to be here with you all tonight, and thank you for presenting through PROLang. I'll now give the floor to Mirela.
Thank you, Ramona.
Yeah, go
ahead. Yep. Good afternoon, everyone, both here in the room and online. Welcome once again to our event focused on postgraduate research in Albanian language, culture, and history. As Ramona said, we're honored today by the presence of two ambassadors, His Excellency Mr. Uran Feridzi, Ambassador of the Republic of Albania in the UK, and His Excellency Mr. Ilir Kapiti, Ambassador of the Republic of Kosovo. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank both of them for their continued support to our activities and our efforts to promote the Albanian language and studies here at SSEES. I would also like to thank the director of SSEES, Richard Mole, for his willingness to be part of our events and for his support of Albanian language studies. Special thanks to you, Ramona, for providing us with the space and the support needed to organize these activities related to Albanian studies. It was exactly a year ago that we held another gathering, as Ramona mentioned, focused on Albanian studies at universities around the world. Since then, we have some exciting news to share. We are offering a new course here at SSEES for Albanian heritage speakers, which is the first of its kind here at SSEES. And in addition to Ramona and the director, which I already thanked, and I thank again, I would also like to thank Mukesh for his support and efforts in establishing this group. I'm pleased that we continue the dialogue that we started last year with an event dedicated to the postgraduate studies. Your Excellency, yeah, we are getting you by surprise as well. Just a few words.
Hello, everybody. It's very nice to see you here in person and also the ones online. I'm intentionally not showing myself on the camera, just in case this impromptu speech doesn't really work as intended. But hello to all the people online as well, and I very much look forward to hearing all you have to say. I thought it was the second in the running, but I suppose it's the first in another series, the PROLang. So that was interesting, and I suspect this will also be just as interesting. The work you do is very important. It may look as if it's just another one, but it contributes to that corpus of Albanological studies that is so important, especially since our countries, both Albania and Kosovo, and wherever the Albanians live, are very small. The countries are small and the institutions are small, so we appreciate the contribution you give. And now it's over to the other ambassador.
Oh, thank you. I couldn't agree more than what you pointed out, and I'm really happy always to be part of this group. I'm immensely sort of proud of the work that you are doing in the United Kingdom, and the number is growing. We have to utilize them and sort of invite them. The demand to the second generation that is living in the United Kingdom is very sort of keen to learn Albanian language, and teaching them our culture is very important for all of us, I think, and this is why I really respect the institution that you are working for. It remains to find a solution how we're going to move forward, all of us together, and contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And for your support and for always being here and supporting us with our events. So today we'll hear from researchers from several universities across Europe who have focused their studies on Albania and the Albanian language. I want to express my appreciation to each of them for being here today and for their excellent collaboration. And without further ado, I would like to present our first speaker, Sidorela Doli, who is a lecturer of the Albanian language and literature at Charles University in Prague, in Czech Republic, who, in addition to her academic career, is the author of the novel Kur shpirti ecën, When the Soul Walks, which explores profound themes of identity and society. And she's also working on a new novel, continuing her exploration of the human behavior through literature. The title of her presentation is The Phenomenon of Albanian Sworn Virgins, Burrneshat, in the Literary Aspect. So the floor is yours, Sidorela.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you for giving us the opportunity to be part of this event. It's important for us as Albanians to have an opportunity to show also our researches. First of all, I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So, as Mirela mentioned, the topic of my research is the phenomenon of the sworn virgin, or as a term in Albanian, the Burrneshat in literary aspect. So if we want to mention about this phenomenon for years, it has been attracted the attention of the researchers for years, and most of them have been focused on anthropological aspect, and of course based on human behavior and the influence that society had. If we are going to make a small research about the term in the dictionary of Albanian language in 1980 and also in 85, this term is going to be found like Burrneshat as brave girls who has faced all the dangers and difficulty. As this phenomenon is laid more in the mountains and in the north of Albania, of course, the law of and the canon of Ledio, it will be implemented there. This term in of Burrneshat is not going to be found with the same one, but is going to be like Virgina or the virgin one. Even these women are going to have this very difficult transition in their life. They're still in a room full of men. They are not going to be allowed to have their opinions. There are some reasons of this transformation, like forced marriage, blood feud, sometimes the house missing the name and it was impossible to have a continuous or of the last name, and sometimes just to have the benefits of the man's, like drinking, smoking, or just have some utilities in their everyday life. So in a society where the honor and besa, or like the given word, are deeply implemented, the sworn virgins appear as a symbol of resistance and, of course, an adaptation in a society when for the figure of the women have a lot of restriction. When it's one of the reasons why I would like to see this phenomenon through the lens of literary analysis is because sometimes literary works often serve as a starting point to address some social problems and also to break some taboos, and also to be able to articulate and to express directly some phenomenon like virginity, sexuality, gender problems, and of course also homosexuality. When we are going to focus on the study, of course, we have some aims and objectives, like discussion of the historical and anthropological context of the phenomenon of the sworn virgin, analyzing the figure of the sworn virgin and their transformative process in literary context, but also in their real life, discuss through the sworn virgin challenging gender norms within Albanian society. And it's important also to make a comparison of the phenomenon and the motives of its creation in different cultural aspects. To follow a line in this research, of course, we need to use some primary and secondary one. In that moment that we are speaking, we are in a phase that we are dealing with secondary resources like scientific resources and also some novels that will serve us to make like text analysis. And in the future, it will be also implemented like field work when, fortunately, still in Albania, we have 4 sworn virgins that are still alive, and we are being able to communicate and interview them. Of course, to have a continuous of this research, is important to deal with anthropological methods. We have to know better the human behavior, how is it transformed from one phase to another. And of course, it's important to have some comparative methods between novels, but also in different countries like Serbia or the North Macedonia or Croatia, when this because this phenomenon is not only evaluated in Albania but also in Balkan. When we mentioned the reason why we need to focus also this phenomenon in literary work, I will mention here some of the examples that I have been dealing with. And it's important sometimes because we have, during this research, have dealt with different interviews also that are made in the past, and some of these books and novels express some of the words that, in fact, for sworn virgins in reality are impossible to be expressed. Like Tom Parfit in 1997 for a Scottish newspaper, but also in Antonia Young research for women who became men. He mentioned that some topics like sex was very taboo for Albanian women, and of course also for the sworn virgin. When he mentioned you have to swallow hard before you mention sex in very ultra-conservative society. And when he asked in that year one of the sworn virgins called Lule what you think about sex, and she said, why I should miss sex when my family when I have already large family, and the work is the most important thing that these women had in their life. And of course, when they were asked about the phenomenon of homosexuality, they didn't have any idea what this was. In this slide, you will see a list of work, when we will start with a girl who became a boy, Vaiza Shubadial. It will be a fairy tale. And of course our oral literacy, when we will combine the fantastic elements with the tradition, when the girls that meet fantastic characters like the dragons will express her transition from becoming to become a boy and to serve and to help her village from the bad energy. After we have this phenomenon is mentioned also at the cycle of the Kreshnik, that is or Tsikli Kreshnikva, mentioned in Omer the Younger, when a girl has to be the Omer and has to fight with the bylaws and to save her house and her family. An interesting aspect will come from Elizabeth Miller, when she will give us a different point of view from a child point of view of this phenomenon, and it will be a children's historical novel when the girl Pran is going to be married or forced to be married in an early age of 14 years old, and that's why Pran decided to become a sworn virgin, because it was obligated to get married. One of the novels that is going to be able to make a connection between the past and the present and the modern version of seeing the Sworn Virgin will be the novel of Elvira Dona's Sworn Virgin. That first it was written in Italian, Virginia Giurata, and then it was translated in English with the same title, so Sworn Virgin. Here in this novel we'll see the transition and the archetype of duel, and of course the archetype of the duel is the oldest archetype in literature, but not only, also in psychology. And we'll see the feelings and the change that this person might feel during this transition. And of course, one of the motives that it's very important to mention here is the erotic motive, as Tom Parfit mentioned before. It was very impossible for women to talk about it, and Elvira Dones here gives us a different point of view, and letting the Sworn Virgin tell us what they really feel. Because even in some of the interview that BBC made of the Sworn Virgin nowadays, 1 year ago, still this woman didn't like to mention anything about sex. Even the time changed, and now they have the ability to make their own choices. The same thing it's going to be for the Sworn Virgin in Christopher Dukes and also in Njegruan Urdrine Uikut. They will mention this phenomenon here, but in different point of view. The first one, it will be mentioned for the blood feud, and the second one, it will be mentioned for how some people might have the same instinct as animal, as wolf in this case, and it will be a pressure for the other side to change themselves. And of course, it's important to have some expecting outcomes from our research, and it's important to understand the cultural and social context of the Sworn Virgin, and of course the tradition, examining the intersection of the gender, power, and social within literature works about Sworn Virgin, gaining insight into the historical significance and modern reinterpretation of the Sworn Virgin phenomena, identifying themes such as sacrifice, autonomy, identity in literature center around the Sworn Virgin. Of course, in the end, is comparing and contrasting representation of the Sworn Virgin tradition across different literature works and, of course, cultural context. Thank you for your time. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Sidorela, for this very interesting presentation. Looking forward to read more about it. And now, Ledio Hala, a lecturer for Albanian at the University of Regensburg, and also the University of Zurich, who is pursuing a PhD in the field of language policies related to Albanian. And his research interests also include the didactic and scientific study of Albanian as a foreign and a heritage language, as well as the censorship of translated literature in totalitarian Albania. The title of his presentation is The Process of Standardization of Albanian, a Corpus-Based Perspective. The floor yours, Ledio.
Thank you, Mirela. Thank you also for organizing this together with Ramona, and thank you for the invitation. I'm going to share the screen as well. Can you all see? Okay, very good. So I am presenting my PhD project proposal, or project because it has already started, the process of standardization of Albanian, a corpus-based perspective. And this project is part of the PhD program in general linguistics at the University of Hamburg. I have two supervisors, one German supervisor and one Albanian supervisor from the Academy of Sciences of Albania. I will do a general introduction. I know that many people know this information, but I've been thinking that they may be people that do not know this information, so I'm just including it. The Albanian language, it's spoken by millions of people across the Balkans and the diaspora, but what makes it fascinating is its division into two primary dialects, Geg in the north and Tosk in the south. And these two dialects are geographically separated by the Shkumbin River and differ significantly in both phonology and morphology. These differences in morphology and phonology are not just a linguistic curiosity. They've actually played a central role in the historical and political debates over how to create a unified standard for the Albanian language. Efforts to standardize Albanian go back to the 19th century during a period known as the Albanian National Renaissance. This was a time when Albanian intellectuals sought to foster a sense of national identity, and language was a key part of this effort. In 1916, the Literary Commission of Shkodra, that time Albania was conquered or part of Austro-Hungarian, and they influenced or they supported this Literary Commission of Shkodra. They proposed the Elbasan variety, a central dialect that bridges features of both Geg and Tosk as a potential standard. It is questionable how this variety, Elbasan variety, was implemented, because these efforts were actually short-lived due to political upheavals and later the rise of the communist regime. When the communists came to power after World War II, they took full control of the standardization process. In 1972, the Congress of Orthography, at the Congress of Orthography, Northern Tosk was formally established as the foundation for Standard Albanian. This choice wasn't just about linguistic preferences. It reflected the political dominance of the southern elites who were in power at the time, but not only. And my research seeks to explore how these linguistic, political, and ideological forces intertwined during the standardization process. So let me share the three key research questions that guide this project. How was literary Tosk shaped and developed into the standard language? What role did the Elbasan variety play in the early stages of standardization, and how did its influence fade? And what external factors, such as political ideologies, influenced this process, and how were these influences reflected in language use across different layers of society. I will explain a bit later what do I mean with different layers of society. From my preliminary observation, I have hypothesized that the Elbasan variety continued to hold some influence among the political elite until the early 1950s. So this wasn't a process that the communist regime came 1944 and then we directly started to use Tosk variety. It didn't happen like that. Language change needs time. However, its prominence declined as the systematic development of literary Tosk gained momentum, of course, eventually culminating in the 1972 Congress. I also believe that the communist ideological frameworks played a dual role, shaping linguist decisions and ensuring their acceptance through propaganda and educational reforms. To investigate these questions, I propose a twofold methodology. The first part involves a corpus-based analysis. I am creating several subcorpora, including government documents to understand the language of the political elite. This can be found in the State Archive. I've been observing them, and it is amazing. For example, I can say that, let's just take one interesting example, that Ivan Enver-Hoxha in his letters and in the minutes uses the gag infinitive. He is from Girocastra, from southern Tosk, and still he uses the gag infinitive because the Elbasan variety was the political elite was still using Elbasan variety, at least till 1950. Then we have, I will observe newspaper, especially the Voice of the People, Zëri Popullit, and periodicals. So I can see I can analyze the language of journalists, the literature written on that time, where I can observe the language of writers and intellectuals, as well as letters from the public, which provide a glimpse into how ordinary citizens were using the language. These are manuscripts, which makes a bit difficult the conversion into text, but still I'm thinking about this. And the second part of my methodology is the archival research. By examining state archives, I hope to uncover the policies and decisions that shaped the standardization process. This combination of corpus analysis and archival research will allow me to trace linguistic changes over time and understand the motivation behind them. My theoretical framework draws on several key perspectives. First, Haugen's 4 stages of standardization, selection, codification, elaboration, and implementation offer a structured way to analyze the process. For example, selection refers to the decision to use Northern Tosk, while codification involves the development of grammar and orthographic rules. Cooper's question, such as who influenced what behaviors of which people for what ends, help frame my analysis of the actors and motivation behind language planning. Ferguson's scale will guide me. Will guide my evaluation of whether Standard Albanian became a widely accepted norm across different domains of use. And finally, the ideology of standardization helps me explore how the communist regime used language as a tool for nation building and social control. And another crucial theoretical element is in my work is the concept of the social pyramid. So this is about different layers. So this idea helps to dissect the layers of influence within society. At the top of the pyramid, we find the political elite, decision makers who set linguistic policies. Below them are journalists, intellectuals, and writers who played a key role in promoting and implementing these changes. At the base of the pyramid, ordinary citizens reflect the linguistic norms in everyday life. By building separate corpora for each of these layers, I can identify how language evolved across the pyramid and trace which groups were most instrumental in driving linguistic changes. The work of Androcli Costalari, he was a central figure in Albanian language planning during the communist period, also informs my research. Costalari argued that standard Albanian was not purely based on literary Tosk, but incorporated elements of gag as well, particularly in phonology. His writings suggest a deliberate blending of dialectal features to create a more inclusive standard, though this claim remains debated. There is the other linguist, Janet Byron, American linguist. She hypothesizes that some gag features were already present in the literary task before the 1972 standardization. And this is what I will be testing through corpus analysis, because Costalari and Byron, they didn't do a corpus analysis. Janet Byron couldn't even do it because she didn't have access on that time that she wrote her book to the materials. Costalari, of course, he could do it. He followed the process, but he was, of course, ideologically influenced. He was living on that time. He was deciding for that time. It was also the way how he wrote. It was also he also wrote thinking about the censorship that comes when. So there was a state apparatus that was censoring also what the linguists were writing in a way. To illustrate this, I'm giving as example only nomina agentis, so agent nouns in Albanian. In Tosk, these forms include mosonius and ledzonius, for example, teacher and reader. Gag, on the other hand, introduced simplified forms like mosues, ledzues. And actually, the gag forms were eventually adopted into the standard. And by analyzing corpus data, I aim to track how these forms were used across different social groups and how their adoption reflected broader changes in linguistic norms. And was the shift purely ideological, or did it reflect practical linguistic trends? And these are the kind of questions my research seeks to answer. The contribution that this research gives, so my work, this research has the potential to make significant contributions. In general linguistics, it will provide valuable empirical data on the under-researched topic of Albanian standardization. And I'm referring here to empirical research, not to the studies that shows the ideology of the time and the debates of the time. In history, it will reveal the socio-political forces that influence linguistic decisions. And in social linguistics, it will shed light on the relationship between language power and social hierarchy. To conclude it, my research seeks to unravel the linguistic, social, and political dynamic that shaped the standardization of Albanian. By combining corpus analysis with archival research, I hope to provide new insights into how a diverse language was transformed into a unified standard under the communist regime. And this project will contribute to broader discussions on language planning, standardization, and the role of ideology in shaping linguistic practices. Thank you so much for your attention, and I look forward to your questions and any feedback that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ledio. Really has been much debate in this topic, and for you as well, we're looking forward for your research to be finished, so we can read it. Now, Joe Raffel, a PhD student at the Open University here in UK, who works in systems theory with particular reference to theories of social differentiation and communication. With a prior career in public administration, he has formed an interest in organizations and their internal narratives. And other research interests include Stalinism, inner state interaction, and of course, as he says, Albanian history. And Joe has joined us in our Albanian courses here at SSEES. The title of his presentation is Narrating the Totalitarian Party State, the Role of Ideology and History in Communist Albania. Thank you, Joe.
Hello. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. So yeah, my project is about how state narratives influence the political evolution of communist Albania, in particular, how it interacted and saw its relations with the outside world. And yeah, I use systems theory and organizational theory to understand this. So as people will know, the Party of Labour came to power as part of a peasant rebellion in South Coastal Albania during World War II. People may know Besnik Pula's work. The social relations of that part of Albania made it particularly useful in terms of a totalitarian form of national developing in terms of the old Ottoman style of land management there. So I'm going to say that rather than understanding Albanian communism's trajectory in terms of a national particularity, I've been influenced by the approach of historians like Elidor Miheli and Artan Hoxha in understanding it as part of a global history of the meeting of certain international processes in particular environments. We also say that obviously, as a Leninist party, it comes to power and it tries to destroy rival forms of social organization. It merges the party and the state and to some degree the society, and it sees itself as an organized system in an international environment where war and sovereignty are its primary categories for understanding the social world. And I think we can say that following on work on Stalinism in Russia and in Albania, that they were, extraordinarily serious about the ideology, even when they knew they were being dishonest and lied or in the service of what they see as a greater truth. So in this sense, it mixes certain national popular sources with Jacobin, Leninist, Stalinist sources. So in terms of this, I see the party as operating with the Jacobins' conception of modernity, drawn from the European revolutionary tradition, where there's an idea of a conspiracy against the people by prior elites, that purity and corruption become primary binary for understanding it. And this is admonished through the idea of biography, biography de Ketch, biography de Mir, and in terms of foreign policy, in terms of allies and enemies. Blame functions clearly as an explanation for policy failure, and the idea of the foreign manipulator, particularly people will know that Archie Pippa noted that Marshal Tito was the primary arch fiend of Albanian Stalinism, was really important. So I think we can say that in some ways it's quite surprising that this conception may have come to pass in Albania. If we think about the national renaissance, education, national backwardness and fighting against that were main theories. Frashiri said we only need pen and paper, those fiery times are over. But of course, there's also within the Rohingya a notion of a martial notion of Albanian nationhood going back to Skanderbeg. And obviously, this was very useful. So I think if we see Leninism as a kind of organized Jacobinism, Lefort and Selznick, for instance, might be political scientists that do this, we can see that this Jacobin conception can work in the context of Albanian cultural history with the notion of this martial way of thinking about it. So in terms of my work, I use systems theory, in particular that related to Nicholas Luhmann's work in seeing organizations drawing a boundary between themselves and the outside world as a system environment relationship. Also use organizational theory to understand organizations as having distributed control between leadership and local officials, which kind of pushes back on some of the aspects of Stalinism, some work on Stalinism that sees it as a completely top-down notion. In fact, actually managing local officials and managing the populations, there's this kind of cybernetic relationship between local officials and the leadership. People may know Art Hoja's book on the Orthodox Church. There's a brilliant example in that, in where, in terms of the anti-religious campaign in the late 60s, local officials went much further in some instances than the party centre would have wanted, but they kind of had to go along with it because it reinforced their ideological kind of things. And in terms of this, I see the common characteristics of formal organisations are radicalised under Stalinism. So, according to organisational theory, membership, hierarchies, self-description, and episodes are clear characteristics of organisations. In terms of Stalinism, obviously membership very strongly orders the inclusion-exclusion relations, with party members becoming potential, included into various things that party non-members don't have. Hierarchy is radicalized in terms of the personality code. Self-descriptions, in all organizations, you have to speak in a certain way, you have to reference certain things. Obviously, in Stalinist societies, this is radicalized in terms of ideology. And episodes, which I'll come on to, in terms of a kind of organizational crisis technology, where in situations, alternative structures are brought into, and I'll come on to that in a moment. So, following systems theoretical research, I consider Stalinism as an organizational society, i.e. they merge a party, state and society, and the distinctions of the party can directly order domestic and foreign policy in a way that can't in a society where that hasn't happened. So the party state eschews functional differentiation, that is to say that the legal order or the artistic society or economics have its own logic. Obviously, rather than doing that, the party state runs all that through a political logic, and as you can see in the poster, it makes implement the decisions of the Congress is for everybody. It's not just for party members, it's not just for civil servants, but everybody is expected to do that. So in terms of the organizational society, I think we can say that, organizations are generally authoritarian things, but in the context of a liberal order, people only spend a certain part of their lives within them, and they only obviously relate to certain areas of social activity. Obviously, in a society where one organization is, controls the entirety of society, or at least tries to control the entirety of society, that massively limits the ability of the regime to understand the social world in a realistic way. So we can say that party history becomes the key narrative and party membership the key inclusion mechanism of the whole of society. And this is obviously in terms of communist Albania, the narrative of partisan war and the socialist construction of Albania after 1944 is extremely important. And that narrative is considered the narrative of the society. So how much longer I've got there? Yeah. So in terms of this, I'm going to talk about the self-description. So organizational self-descriptions are texts which organizations tell themselves what they are and kind of work through their decision-making through them. They draw a boundary between the party or the organization as itself and the rest of the social world is seen as an environment. And individuals within these narratives function as tokens for certain values. And clearly, anybody who's read any propaganda from the communist period knows that Enver Hoxha functions as the positive side of an operating binary code, whereas, Sefdula Melashova or Liri Gaga or Mehmet Shehu come to be the negative side of that form. And that just processes information through this notion of mere sketch kind of biography. So people can say, we can say that the key self-descriptions for this Albanian Communist Party state are the history of the party and state constitution, and various writings of Enver Hoxha, but they're also present in, Xhaferraj films, socialist realist fiction, lapidary, martyr summaries, and stuff like that do this. So we can say that the party state observes society through its own construction of the world and operates using an oscillation between this self-reference and other reference. And this, Fetis Lavonia has this idea of a virtual world of ideology and a real world of misery. And we can say that that virtual world of ideology is what the party state references in all of its communications and all of its decision making. So I conceptualized the Party of Labour as an observing system which observes its world through its ideology and tries to relive that ideology of war and revolution, relive the glory days, and that becomes its main policy priority. So people will know that, you know, in the China-Albania relationship, you know, over 150 kilometers of tunnels were built under southern Albania. Part of that, you know, that was the policy priority compared to, you know, other things that could have been spent on similarly for tunnel, for rockets, bunkers, etc. So, as all organizations observe their environment with internal resources, that is, they construct their external world, we can see that the party state looked at the world through its own ideology, and its feedback was again filtered through this ideology. And we can say that throughout its 45 years of existence, the People's Socialist Republic of Albania changed its understanding of its environment several times, and each time it featured conflict with actors in its environment and political purges of members associated with the former allies. So we can say that the party saw de-Stalinization in the USSR as a deep threat to its way of operating and even to Albanian sovereignty, to the extent that they had open conflict. And similarly, the purges of the 70s of the Ministry of Defense, the cultural sector and the economic sector was again related to conflicts and allied environment. So the spectre of outside actors was an important element in the evolution of the regime's position to a position of autarky. Very briefly, I'll mention episodes here before I finish it off. Episodes are a means of temporarily suspending an organization's structures and replacing them with alternative ones. And these happens when a crisis, when the organization experiences an inconsistency between the way it sees itself and the organization that works. And we can say that, you know, for instance, different figures within the party leadership are branded as being related to the ally in the Jacobin sense I mentioned earlier, and excised from the organization. And this allows the bureaucratic hierarchy to be reorganized while affirming the general history of the organization. I did have this slide on organization, on national role conceptions. I'll just briefly say that this is at a different level of the project, but anti-imperialism, anti-revisionism, and being an example state are very important. And again, this comes from the organizational self-descriptions here. So just to finish off, my kind of working hypothesis is that the repressive form of national Stalinism developed thereafter conceptualized the outside world as intensely hostile to Albanian sovereignty. And when a crisis happened in the way that the party state and its erstwhile ally perceived each other, the ally became constructed as an enemy. Part of the system was branded as corrupt and in league with the enemy. And what it did was that the official revolutionary narrative had to be revised on the Jacobin scheme, where it was both accepted and denied that the world has changed. And this prioritized the virtual world of ideology over geopolitics. There's kind of a path-dependent loop between purge and international breaks and crisis, which kind of pushed it to its final destination of a last bastion of high Stalinism into the 1980s and the purge of Shehu and the Interior Ministry in 1980 was kind of the apology of that kind of politics.
We'll continue. Thank you very much. We'll continue now with Angela Lepuri. She's a full-time lecturer at the University of Tirana in the Department of Linguistics. She has worked also in Ca' Foscari University in Italy and at the Ministry of Culture of Albania, where she worked as coordinator of International Cultural Weeks. She is also a translator of several books, academic writings, and literary articles. And the title of her presentation is Behavioral Patterns of Parents in Supporting Heritage Language Maintenance. Thank you, Angela.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Mirela, and thank you to Ramona and all your colleagues for organizing this wonderful event dedicated to the Albanian language. Today, I will be presenting on a topic that aligns closely with my research interest and one that I believe that deserves greater attention, discussion, and action. The title of my presentation is Behavioral Patterns of Parents in Supporting Heritage Language Maintenance. But first, I should share my screen. Okay. Albanians in the diaspora constitutes one of the prominent migration phenomena in Europe and beyond. Starting from the historical displacement due to invasion, persecution, or economic crisis, to modern migration influenced by globalization and economic opportunities, the Albanian diaspora is a diverse community that includes communities in Western Europe, United States, Australia, and other countries. These communities have not only influenced the preservation and promotion of the Albanian national identity, but have also contributed to the economic and cultural and political development of the countries where they have settled. Serving as a bridge between Albania, Kosovo, and other Albanian territories with the world, the Albanian diaspora represents an important force for the preservation of cultural heritage and the further development of international connection. One of the biggest challenges faced by Albanians in the diaspora is the preservation of the Albanian language as a key element of their national identity. The Albanian language as a heritage language is an essential component connected not only to the culture and historical belonging, but also to the ability to keep alive the links between generations. In the diaspora, where the host country's languages dominate, the preservation and teaching of Albanian represent an ongoing challenge. However, efforts to teach Albanian in the diaspora have shown that the language can be preserved and developed if well-organized structures are involved. Parents play a key role in this process, helping children learning Albanian from an early age. In this context, Albanian as a heritage language becomes not only a means of communication, but also a symbol of the unbroken connection to Albanian roots. The preservation of the Albanian language in the diaspora is a complex challenge influenced by various cultural, social, and linguistic factors. This study shed light on the behaviors and strategies of Albanian parents in their efforts to support the use of Albanian language among the second and third generation of immigrants. In a context where integration into the culture and language of the host country dominates, the role of parents is crucial in creating an environment that favors bilingualism and preservation of cultural identity. In immigrant settings, the minority language often remains limited to close personal spaces like the home and social network. Consequently, it lacks border functions such as related to employment, education, mass media, and governments. When there are no institutions offering education in the native language, the responsibility for preserving the language falls on families. Their involvement is crucial, as even if mother tongue education is available, it cannot guarantee the language survival without a strong presence of the language within the family. Okay, family language policy has become a topic of increasing interest in recent years as it offers a valuable framework for examining language change within the family setting of a society. As Xhaferraj and Burrneshat highlight, the family is considered a prerequisite for maintaining and preserving languages. Researchers from the diverse geopolitical contexts have investigated three main components of family language policy: language ideology, language practice, and language management. These studies have collectively shown that family language policy plays an essential role in shaping the linguistic and social development of the children. Bernard Spolsky proposed a model on language policy according to which language policy at the family level is comprised of the following three components: language ideology and beliefs, that is the speaker view on the aesthetic, symbolic, and economic value of the majority and the minority language, as well as those of their version spoken by the immigrants and their children, the appropriateness of using the one or the other in public or at home, the significance of minority language maintenance. Language practices, which involve frequency of use of the minority and the majority language at home and possibility patterns of language choice among family members to account for the effect of factors like proficiency and desire to accommodate their interlocutor's preference. Language management, which refers to parents' direct efforts to manipulate the linguistic situation, for instance, by trying to persuade their children to speak or learn one or the other language. The three components of family language policy are strongly interrelated. Language practice are influenced by ideology and sometimes lead to language management. In his language policy model, Spolsky emphasized the active role of parents as manager of their children's language behaviors. According to Spolsky, parents typically take on the role of authority figures within the home, allowing them to influence or alter their children's language practice and beliefs. The home language environment is thus shaped and controlled by the parents through their responsible actions. Parents' view on the importance of the minority language are shaped by various internal and external influence, which can lead to differing perspectives within the same immigrant community in a host country. For example, in a context where the dominant ideology favors rapid assimilation and monolingualism in the majority language, some parents may decide to completely abandon the ethnic or the heritage language. Others, anticipating a return to their home country, may continue to prioritize the ethnic language, or, if it is feasible, opt for living in isolated communities where the minority language is still spoken. In such cases, they may enforce inclusive use of the first language within the family and resist exposure to the majority language. Several researchers have identified various strategies and practices which are supposed to contribute to heritage language maintenance. These are making available media and print in the ethnic language, ensuring contact with same language speakers via internet, frequent visit to the country of origin. Some studies classify media provision in the ethnic language and visit to the home country as a weak form of language management, arguing that they do not significantly contribute to ethnic language proficiency. In contrast, they identify stronger forms of language management as creating a home environment where the ethnic language is the primary, legitimate, and dominate means of communication among all the family members. 2, incorporating literacy practice at home, and 3, enrolling children in mother tongue courses to support any ethnic language development occurring with the household. In my perspective, for many families, visits to the home country provide an immersive experience that reinforce the heritage language in real-world settings. This exposure to the language spoken in everyday interaction alongside cultural practices and local dialects can be highly beneficial, particularly if the child has limited opportunities to use the heritage language in their host country. Such visit can thus serve as a powerful tool for enhancing language skills, fostering deeper cultural connection, and reinforcing the importance of heritage language in a natural, authentic environment. Research on the family language policy shows that while Albanian immigrant parents generally hold favorable views toward maintaining the heritage language and promoting literacy development, they often do not implement specific language management strategies. This suggests a certain level of ambivalence about actively fostering and supporting the heritage language. This lack of proactive language management is one of the key areas that requires focused attention and commitment from parents if they are genuinely interested in ensuring the long-term preservation of the heritage language. Without such international efforts, the sustainability of the language within the family and community can be compromised. Okay, the preservation of the heritage language plays a vital role in the linguistic, culture, and social growth of the immigrant children. Although much research has been conducted on the importance of the heritage language, there is still limited understanding of how it is actively used and maintained with the home environment. In this study, through empirical observation and interviews with parents who prioritize language preservation, we identify key factors that benefit all families. Understanding the elements present in the home environment and the specific strategies parents use to transmit their heritage language to the children is crucial for our analysis. The role of parent knowledge in heritage language maintenance. Many parents may wonder what they can do at home to create a positive linguistic environment for their children, fostering the development of heritage language skills and encouraging them to grow with love and confidence in speaking the language spoken by their family and ancestors. They may also question how they can leverage their own knowledge of language, culture, identity, and the transition they have experienced in their lives to help their children thrive in two worlds. These questions serve as an entry point to understanding the concept of the parent knowledge as introduced by Debbie Pusher. This term refers to the distinctive insights, lived experience, and deep understanding that parents contribute to the children's education and development. This knowledge plays a pivotal role in heritage language maintenance, as it is influenced the strategies and practices parents use to foster linguistic and cultural development at home. Parents, founts of knowledge, as Pusher highlights, extend beyond technical knowledge and include the cultural practices, values, and life lessons they have accumulated. By using this knowledge intentionally, parents can establish a home environment where the heritage language is valued and practiced, whether through daily communication, storytelling, participation in cultural tradition, or exposure to heritage language media. Such efforts not only enhance linguistic proficiency, but also strengthen children's sense of identity and belonging. In this way, parent knowledge became a crucial tool for ensuring the intergenerational transmission of language and culture. Pusher perspective underscore the importance of recognizing the respect parents as active contributors to their children's education and cultural development, positioning them as vital agents in the preservation of heritage language identity. Fostering a home environment that supports heritage language. Home is a very private place, often the place in which family members can be their most authentic selves. Its intimate atmosphere creates an ideal environment for natural and organic learning, especially for the children. A common approach many parents take to promote heritage language learning is to create a home literacy environment. This often includes engaging in daily conversation and intergenerational communication, providing bookshelves filled with picture books in the heritage language, incorporating multimedia resources, and finding creative ways to integrate the language into activities, such as using children's names in songs or in lullabies. Okay, the first conversation often serve as a key component of the home literacy environment. Research such as cross-culture study by Schneiderman and Goldin Meadow highlights the critical role of daily oral input in supporting a child language development. Lee demonstrated that when parents implement a heritage language only policy at home, children are more likely to develop both a positive attitude toward their first language and higher level of proficiency in it. Intergenerational communication often plays a crucial role in children's heritage language development. Regular interaction with grandparents or other elderly family members, especially those who are primary caregivers, can reinforce the commitment to using the heritage language exclusively at home. Books. Numerous studies have emphasized the significance of repeated story reading and storytelling in both the first and second language. In their research on Spanish-English bilingual children, Uccelli and Pes found that when children hear, engage with, and tell stories in Spanish, it can enhance their narrative abilities in both Spanish and English. Similarly, Kuminis proposed that skills developed in a child's heritage language are transferable to learning a second language, thus creating and nurturing a positive heritage language environment for immigrant children not only strengthens their cultural connection, but also lays a strong foundation for their development in majority language. Singing song lullabies is another enjoyable way to make learning the heritage language fun and memorable. This activity helps children develop their listening and speaking skills in an unchanging, stress-free environment. The repetition of familiar tunes and words reinforce vocabulary and pronunciation, while the melodies make language learning more accessible and enjoyable. Okay, children books and picture books are commonly favored by many parents as a tool for introducing language. These books are especially appealing because they combine real-life topics with simple, child-friendly text and visual that help children express ideas. Real-life stories are often highlighted by many researchers as a vital component in connecting heritage language with family literacy practice. Games are an excellent and enjoyable way for parents to encourage the use of heritage language. They provide a fun, interactive environment where children can practice language skills naturally without the pressure of formal learning. Writing together, so child-parent, is another powerful way for parents to engage their children in their heritage language. By collaborating on writing activities such as creating stories, keeping journals, or composing letters, parents help their children practice writing skills while reinforcing vocabulary, grammar, and sentence structure in the heritage language. Okay, so there are also culture and interactive activities like cultural activities, heritage language media, language play, rhymes, and also bilingual labeling. Okay, among the various practices typically followed by parents who are more conscious of preserving their heritage language, we would like to highlight an interview with an Albanian immigrant living in Italy. The interview with KM an Albanian woman living in Porto Santa Margherita, Italy, addressed the preservation and transmission of the Albanian language to children in a migratory context. KM emphasized the immense importance of maintaining the native language, so the heritage language, considering it as inseparable element of national and cultural identity. At home, her family used only the Albanian language, except when helping her son with school assignments in Italian. This practice aims to strengthen their skills in Albanian and prevent the language from being forgotten. The KM teaching Albanian is a familial responsibility, as it is the language of their origin and the cherished heritage that must be passed on the future generation. KM highlights that watching Albanian television programs has played a significant role in keeping the language alive, not only for the children, but also for the adults. Additionally, she read books in Albanian to her children, focusing on fairy tales and that spark interest and passion in the younger ones. Her 7-year-old son is developing his reading and writing skills in Albanian, while the younger child listen to the readings. In the absence of the institution offering Albanian language instruction in the area where she lives, KM considers family communication in Albania and interaction with the relatives as the primary strategies for preserving the language. She underscores that trips to Albania are crucial for exposing children to the language and strengthen cultural ties. In conclusion, KM argues that the most effective way to preserve the native language is through its daily use, watching Albania media and actively involve children in environments where Albanian is dominant. She sees that as a continuous commitment that requires significant dedication from parents. Okay, and I'm so sorry for the time. Thank you for your time and for your attention. Faleminderit.
Faleminderit. Thank you, Angela. A very interesting topic and very important for the Albanian diaspora and also here in the UK. And now Federica De Bastiani, who is graduated with a bachelor's degree in modern languages and cultures and also a master's degree in modern languages and literatures from the University of Calabria. Her academic work includes 2 dissertations on Albanian literature, and she has proposed a translation of Martin Camaj's short story Shkundullima into Italian, along with the literary analysis of the text. So the title of her presentation is Martin Camaj, The Arbëresh World and the Short Story Shkundullima. Thank you, Federica.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for inviting me today. First of all, I will share my screen. Can you please see it? Okay. So my presentation focuses on Martin Camaj, his connection to the Arbëresh world, and his literary perspective, particularly regarding themes of identity and exile. I believe this topic is significant because it explores how literature serves as a bridge between personal and collective memory in diasporic contexts. So let's begin. To guide you through this journey, I've structured my presentation into 3 main themes. Martin Camaj as an Albanologist and writer, his engagement with the Arbëresh world, and the short story Shkundullima, The Earthquake, which creatively expresses his perspective on it and for which I proposed a translation into Italian. Just to say a few words more about the context. When we talk about the Arbëresh, we're talking about Albanians who, due to the Ottoman conquest of the Balkans, fled Albania mostly during the 14th and 15th centuries and settled in the regions of southern Italy, creating their own communities, preserving their culture, language, and traditions, and also developing a strong sense of identity. So as we begin, let's turn to the first theme, Martin Samai as an albanologist and writer. As Martin Samai himself said, under normal circumstances, I would have devoted my whole life to literature. But partly because I needed a profession as an immigrant, I chose Albanian linguistics so as not to be separated from poetry. And this quote shows how his roles as a linguist and poet defined both his career and mission. Samai combined two roles, the albanologist, researching old Albanian texts, language history, and Italo-Albanian dialects, and the writer, excelling in poetry, prose, and drama. These two facets intertwined, enriching both his academic and creative works, making him really a well-rounded intellectual. His journey was shaped by his ideological opposition to Albania's communist regime. He never took a political stance, choosing instead the path of education as a means to achieve personal freedom and independence. His escape from Albania marked the beginning of his exile, allowing him to focus on his intellectual and creative pursuits, free from ideological constraints. Samai's life was marked by four significant stations: Albania, former Yugoslavia, Italy, and Germany. Each of these places influenced his identity and academic path. In Italy, particularly during his time in Rome, Samai discovered the Italo-Albanian communities of southern Italy and developed a profound interest in them. And this leads us to the second theme, Martin Samai's relationship with the Arbres world, a key aspect of his life and work that deeply shaped his cultural identity. As the albanologist Francesco Altimari wrote, Samai approached the Albanian diaspora in Italy with particular dedication, finding in the Arbres world a new and vital reference, both ethnically and culturally, for his own identity, as well as an important source of inspiration for his literary creativity and a privileged object for his linguistic research. For Samai, the Arbres world became a linguistic laboratory in the true sense of the word. He delved into its dialects, grammar, and literature, and in doing so, gained a profound knowledge of these fields, providing also methodological guidance for the study of these areas. For Samai, the Arbres world became also a rediscovered piece of his homeland in exile. He saw his own story reflected in the Arbres experience, marked by emigration and exile, as the Arbres people had fled Ottoman rule centuries earlier. This connection inspired him to delve into the themes of identity and memory, which were central to understand their shared history. The sense of solitude and the drive for expression deeply resonated with Samai, who spent decades writing in exile without the immediacy of an audience. Despite this distance, he maintained strong cultural ties by engaging with Arbres intellectuals and publishing articles in literary journals. His mission also became personal. He attempted to document and safeguard the Arbres dialects, oral tradition, and folklore. He considered this work an urgent responsibility, aiming to preserve their cultural heritage before globalization and technological change could threaten their way of life. For this reason, his efforts marked him as a dedicated protector of the Arbres identity. And finally, let's explore Samai's literary perspective in the short story Shkundulima, the earthquake. As another albanologist, Shaban Sinani, observed, even when the events are formally set in other settings, such as those of the short story Shkundulima, in which the characters and protagonists are placed in an Arbresh village, still beneath the people and settings that the author describes, the highlands and the Highlander are very clearly revealed. And this means that through literary art, Tsamai recreates an imagined homeland that seamlessly blends the Arbresh world with the northern Albanian highlands, while remaining deeply connected to his Albanian identity. The story features several recurring elements that Tsamai initially observed during his travels in 1959 and later incorporated into his literary work in 1981. These include the ash-gray color, streams and torrents, the loss of old words, vineyards, and the smoking chimneys and open doors of houses. All of these elements define the environment Tsamai encounters upon his arrival in southern Italy. The toponyms mentioned in Shkundulima are real places, found both in Falconara Albanese, a village in the province of Cosenza, and in northern Albania. These geographical references ground Tsamai's work in real locations, even though the literary setting is imaginary. The places in Arboria include Costiellos, the little castle, Kroni I Vjetor, the old fountain, Sheshi Skanderbeg, Skanderbeg Square, and Polasi, the manor. In Albania, in the Dukagin region, one can find Paroi I Thad, the dry stream. In Tsamai's literary homeland, language, literature, and identity come together. The central element of the plot is the bridge project, which on a symbolic level geographically connects southern Italy and northern Albania. Linguistically, it links the Geg of northern Albania and the Arbresh of southern Italy within the same work. On a literary level, it creates a connection between Tsamai and the great Arbresh poet Girolamo de Rada, whose verses are also quoted in Shkundulima. So my conclusion is that Martin Tsamai, initially an outsider to the Arbresh world, developed a remarkable depth of understanding of it. As an exile, he became so fully immersed in this world that in his short story, the omniscient narrator becomes a powerful device for conveying his profound identification with a homeland that is both rediscovered and reimagined. In short, in this presentation, we've seen that Martin Tsamai was an Albanologist and writer who wrote in Albanian for Albanians and far from Albania. He rediscovered a part of the denied homeland within the Arbresh world, reflected himself in it, and imagined a literary homeland, viewing it almost from within through his creative work. And here just a few bibliographic references. And thank you very much. It was my honor to be with you today.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Federica. Thank you for this very interesting presentation of Martin Tsamai and the Arbresh world. And now we continue with Anna Kapitanova-Krasteva, who is a PhD student at Sofia University of St. Kliment Ohridski, the Department of General Indo-European and Balkan Linguistics. Her research focuses on comparative analysis between Albanian and Bulgarian noun phrases, and she works also as a lecturer in the Albanian language in the same department. The title of her presentation is Adjectival Modifiers in the Nominal Projection in Albanian and Bulgarian. Thank you, Anna.
Dear host, thank you for opportunity to be here with you. Dear colleagues, it's pleasure for me. Your presentation was wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. Now I will share my screen. I need just more time. So we can see the title, adjective modifiers in the nominal projection in Albanian and Bulgarian. I'm Anna Kapitanova. Thank you once again to be here with you. It's a pleasure for me. So what we are going to discuss and why Albanian and Bulgarian, because these languages are part of Balkan Sprachenbund or Balkan Language Union. They are genetically unrelated languages that nevertheless share a number of striking structural similarities. So the topic of our inquiry is that adjectives modifying a noun can be hierarchically ranked, and this ranking plays a crucial role in determining the relative closeness of the adjective to the position of the adjective in the hierarchy determines its position in DP or phrases of determinator. So we will go. The starting point of the inquiry is the fact that attributive adjectives that are normally prenominal in Bulgarian surface in a postnominal position in Albanian. So they share a mirror image. For example, the beautiful woman. We can see that in Albanian, position of the adjective is to the right of the head noun. This one. This E or E in Albanian is prenominal adjective article. In Bulgarian, what we have in Bulgarian is to the left of the noun. So the first one element is adjective, beautiful. Here is the with definite article D, hubavata in Bulgarian, in Albanian e bucura. All nouns in Albanian bear case marking as well as gender number ones. Adjectives enter into extended agreement with the nouns. So we have combination of gender, number, and case. But in modern Bulgarian, there is no case system. So what we just discussed is that the first one element in the noun phrase in Albanian is the noun, but in Bulgarian is the adjective. So we can see that both languages share a postposite article. Many linguists have treated the phenomenon of encliticization of the definite article in Albanian and other Balkan languages as an instance of movement of the noun to the higher position in the D to check the agreement features, producing the order N plus article. So what we have here in this slide is that woman, D. In Albanian, gruaja. In Bulgarian, ženata. So this postposite article shares both languages, Albanian and Bulgarian. In later studies, a number of facts led us to conclude that the Balkan definite articles are morphemes, part of the nouns and adjectives. And we will accept this theory of our inquiry. So we can see now the three representation according to X bar theory, and it shows that the articled nouns and articled adjectives enter to DP or phrase of determinator already inflected with their definite articles. So here in Albanian, in the noun position, we have the woman or woman the. And in Bulgarian case, we have the first element is adjective, and we have beautiful the. So we will go. The same adjective, the beautiful, and so the beautiful one, the same adjective can appear both to the left and to the right of the noun in Bulgarian and Albanian too. So we can say in Albanian, e bucura grua, that's mean the beautiful woman, and it is beautiful, the woman. In Bulgarian, we can say hubavata, жената hubava, that it's woman the beautiful. It's mean the beautiful woman. In both languages, in Albanian and Bulgarian, this is simply a matter of stylistic choice. And there is no difference in meaning, unlike French, for example, and other Romance language too, where we have a different interpretation from when the noun or the adjective is combined in another way. In Albanian, adjectives occurring to the left of the noun modified in a way which is no different from the way in which they modify it when they follow the noun. But in prenominal position are only allowed with animate nouns in Albanian, but in Bulgarian with both, with animate and inanimate nouns. When we invert the usual word order of Albanian Bulgarian NP structure, nominal phrase, the first element is that one with the definite article we can see here. So here is the first one element in a noun phrase of Albanian. Bulgarian, the noun is inflected for the definite article. Albanian, adjective inflected for the definite article. So we can go in next slide. So here we will address the issue of adjective hierarchically order. When NP or DP contains just one adjective, we obviously cannot really say much about its position with an adjective hierarchically. Multiply adjective modifies typically observe strict ordering restrictions. What is interesting about these hierarchies is the fact that the less concrete or objective property on adjective denotates, the more distanced it is from the noun it modifies. So what we have here. The example is 3 beautiful big gray Persian cats. In Bulgarian, we have the same constructions. 3 красиви, големи, сиви персийски котки. So it's like in English, 3 beautiful big gray Persian cats. In Albanian, we have 3 cats, Persian, gray, big, beautiful, or 3 mace persiane, grita madata, bucura. So we have an absolute mirror image in Albanian and the Bulgarian attributive adjectives. So in this point of view, we can apply in both languages the semantic classes of adjectives proposed here. Adjectives that are higher in the hierarchy are also found at a greater distance from the noun than those lower in the hierarchy. So we can see here with this order is absolutely mirror image in Albanian and Bulgarian. So the noun is here in Albanian phrase, and the last element is here in the Bulgarian noun phrase. But the adjectives, the order of adjectives are in absolutely mirror image. So can we go? I think it's, yes. Let us see one more example that shows us that in multiply modification, the order of the adjectives in respect to each other is quite reached according to their semantic. The example is that one, a wonderful French car. In Bulgarian, we have the same phrase, прекрасна френска кола or a wonderful French car. In Albanian, we have once again a mirror image. Një makinë franceze e mrekullueshme. Një is indefinite article. There is a syntaxis correlate to the semantic distinction between objective adjectives and those that are labeled subjective or speaker-oriented. The latter group always precede objective adjectives and hence, linearly, are not as close to noun as objective one. So we have French here, French in Bulgarian and French in English. So they are not as close to noun as objective ones. Absolute or objective modifiers are typically adjacent or very close to the noun they modify. So French is that absolute objective modifiers that is close to the noun. And wonderful, so in Bulgarian прекрасна, in Albanian mrekullueshme is a higher positions. So we are going, but what can see here? It is true that deviation from the order of adjectives, but from the usual order. So when we change position of adjectives, in fact, it's not so unnatural. In such cases, the deviation of the usual order will correlate with either phonological or semantic difference. What I want to say you. For example, if two or more APs, so if you two or more adjectives, phrases are erased as separated by comma intonation, they may escape from the strict ordering. Secondly, focusing the adjective at a greater distance from the noun will give rise to a contrastive reading of a French. French, in this case, in deviation, it means French and not German one wonderful car. Distinct from the natural reading associated with the French, where is in closer position of the noun. And we are going. So what we have here is that in a focus position, lances movement of the stressed adjective to a focus position in DP. So in Albanian, what we have? Not all of adjectives that modify the noun can change their position in linear order. For example, in Albanian, other, theater, precedes beautiful, a bukur. So here, linear order of postnominal adjectives is fixed. The thematic adjective must be lower than the descriptive adjective. What is interesting that the pronominal position is available for either adjective, but not for both together. So we can say beautiful. We can say beautiful other woman, or in Albanian, e bukura tjetër grua. But we can say woman, the other beautiful. We can say other the woman beautiful. We can say beautiful the woman other. But in respect, in thus the linear order of postnominal adjective is fixed, we can't say woman the beautiful other. In definite phrases, the article is generated as a morpheme in focus. Where is my slide? So I didn't put it. I will cross and I will. So what we have in definite phrases, the article is generated as a morpheme in focus position. So because I didn't put the slide, I'm so sorry. The focus position is somewhere here in noun phrases, not above, but inside noun phrases. In definite phrases, the article is generated as a morpheme in focus position. The lexical head N may move to focus position and future check the article in the position. It may also be the case that in AP is focused, so adjective phrase. Adjective phrase moves to a specific focus position. In this case, the enclitic article in focus is enclitized onto the adjacent adjective. So we are here in Bulgarian. So
sorry, Anna, to interrupt you. Thank you. In 3 more minutes, if you could please.
Okay, I will finish. I'm sure. Thank you. Thank you so much. I know it. I know it. So in Bulgarian, we also have a strict order in phrase other beautiful woman, but in Bulgarian case, the thematic adjective must be higher than the descriptive adjective, unlike in same example in Albanian. So here we don't have a mirror image of usual adjective order. Furthermore, Bulgarian shares more ungrammatical construction when the usual order is reserved, unlike Albanian language. And we are going to summarizing what I want to say is that the Albanian language and Albanian language mostly share a mirror image of the adjective order that is usual for each one language. When we have inversion of the usual adjective order in both languages, this is simply a matter of stylistic choice, and there is no difference in meaning. A difference in meaning we can observe in changing adjectives that follow the usual order in both languages. And focus licenses movement of the strict adjective to a focus position in DP. So thank you for your attention once again, and I will hope to see you again. That was.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Anna. And we certainly hope to hear from you again. So this was our last presentation for this meeting, for this evening. So if you have any questions, any comments, you can write in the Q&A, or if anyone here in the room has any questions or comments, please, you're free to ask.
Hello. Hello, my name is Justin Elliott. I'm an independent scholar formerly at the University of Southern California. Ledio, I thought that was an excellent contribution. However, one thing I came was slightly unclear to me was where you saw Albanian standardization going between the literary Congress of at Shkodra and the Congress of Spelling in 1972. I'm thinking particularly of Kostalary's statements attached to the project in 1960 the final project in 1968, where he maps out two particular phrases, one ending in the early 1950s and the other going on further. But also I'm thinking of what you said about the difference of opinion between Kostalary and Byron. And also thinking that Alexander Giovanni had made similar points about the incorporation of get features into task.
Thank you.
Much earlier.
Thank you very much for these questions. They are very interesting. Of course, I was summarizing a bit. I could not mention everything. Starting from Giovanni. Giovanni had three different thoughts about the unified Albanian, as they called it. In 1905, he says that it should be a mix between Geg and Tosk supporting Paikonicas claim in Albania. Later on, during the Austro-Hungarian period, he is pro an Elbasan variety. He sees it as the medium between Geg and Tosk. And right after the war, he still says that during the Second World War, the Tosk was used mainly in publication and periodicals, and so it is normal that we continue in the standardization of Albanian based on the Tosk variety. So, Giovanni changed his thought 3 times. So he thought different in different periods of time. As for Androcli Kostalari, Androcli Kostalari was living during the communist Albania. This means on that time there was an ideology that which was also in migration perspectives, that the villages, the people from the villages were going to the city, the people from the city were going to the villages, and such it was realized the convergence that was fighting the divergences. This was the main concept on that time for the nation building and unity. And Kostalari in 1968 actually does say that we are, the standard is following the path of literary task, but later on, after the standardization, he writes that this is a convergence, so a mixture between Geg and Tosk that fights the divergences. If this happened or not, we don't know. We don't know if Kostalari did say that only to convince his hierarchies in order to not be censored and to be in the same path with the ideology of the time, or if he really thought like that. And only a corpus-based analysis can prove this. This is my opinion.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the other thing I asked was, it's more a throwaway question, but do you think it's significant that the Literary Commission of Shkodra, for many of the people who were the greater figures in the literary production in Tosk at the time, I'm thinking of Doli, Anton Chayupi, Fejkonica, were outside Albania, were outside the control of Austria-Hungary?
Yes. Regarding the Literary Committee of Shkodra, this was a period that actually in the Congress of Leja, that was constitutionally proclaimed as the official language in the schools. Later on, in Zogu time, 1923, it was officially proclaimed as the official language of offices, so in the administration. But it remains for me still unclear if the Literary Committee of Shkodra, the Elbasan variety, was implemented as a standard. So the problem, I think so, but I will further argument it on my PhD. I think that Elbasan variety lacked the implementation. It was not implemented. To implement a language is to use it in all domains, not only in literature with, as you mentioned, the writers like Doli and the other, but also in registers and everywhere. I don't think that Elbasani variety was present everywhere. And I do think that the fact that it was used after the communism from the communist elite, this was because that was the official variety of the other government.
Thank you very much. I had a question for Angela, if that's possible. I was once involved in a school, a supplementary school for Albanian children in London. I obviously wasn't teaching, but one of the things that struck me was that lullabies and picture books are fine for younger children. But what happens when...
I didn't heard well. The songs and the children books and lullabies
are fine for younger children.
Mm-hmm.
But when they get older, how do you keep them? Because a lot of, in my experience, a lot of children were very receptive to the family language, but when they became teenagers, things began to change. Their peer group was English speaking. And how do you keep that? How does that work with social media? How does that work with their own peer group if much of it is not speaking Albanian?
Okay, thank you for your question. Yeah, it's the challenge this because I have wrote in my study, in my presentation, I have told that there is a gap for a lot of materials that the children can use during their so from the first stages and then the teenager and so on. Yeah, I know that is a gap in things in this question, and for example, for my families or for my friends that have children in the teenager generation, I suggest to read books that are written in Albanian usually, and I don't know if there is a huge, I don't think so, that is a huge literacy for teenagers written in Albanian, but they can read also the translation books, a translation in Albanian, but I know that this is not their preferred things to do, because they prefer to read them in Italian or in English than to read them in in Albanian. I think that is so much things to do in this way, because I think that there are materials for the children, for example, from the 7 to the 10 years old, but then when they start the teenager generation, it is difficult. And I think that maybe the Diaspora Center of Publication for can do something in this way, but I think that all of us that study this that are studying this heritage language maintenance can do something. Yeah, it's a difficult thing, because Albanian, for example, I have lived in Italy, and in Venice there is neither any schools or any courses for learning Albanian. And the Venice is one of the most region that Albanian are present there. So they have business, they have for 20 years that live there, and there is no schools, there is no communication, there is no communities organization there. And I know that this is a big problem for our language in diaspora.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Elliot.
Mirela, I'm sorry, can we ask each other?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Thank you very much for all presentations. Particularly interesting for me is the presentation of Angela, because I do deal with this topic on my professional life as a lecturer also for Albanian as a heritage language. Angela, thank you very much. You did actually a very good summary of the standard basic literature for heritage language acquisition and parental behaviors, and it was your theoretical approach or your theoretical basis was very clear to me. But I have some questions. First of all, regarding the context. So, so the first question, I will do my questions first, and then I hope you will remember. So, first of all, which heritage speakers? So, I mean, which is the country that you will deal with, and on the other hand, will you deal only with heritage speakers of Albania, or also of Kosovo, or even North Macedonia?
Can I respond this and then the other questions?
Okay, good, yes.
Yeah, I have told that this is closely aligns with my research PhD term, but I didn't. So I'm in the process of registration, as you know well, but I didn't focus in these things now, because it's too early for me to decide for the Kosovo or for Albanian heritage speakers. So it's a thing that I should do in advance, but I think that usually, so from my opinion, nouns are to study the Albanian as heritage language in the diaspora. So to make a general panorama, and then to make to study some case studies that are very important. For example, this role of parents in the maintaining the language, or for example, the usage and the trajectories of language in the second and in the third generation. So there are a lot of issues that I want to study, but as you know, I didn't start my PhD, so I'm waiting to start it. So I should focus in these things maybe later, but to study all the communities, so the Kosovo and the Albanian, maybe be a challenge, but I don't know what response to give you. So I don't want to tell you that just Albanian and then to study under the Kosovo. So
yes, I got it. But still, you didn't choose a particular country, because every country
Mhm.
which has heritage
Usually,
speakers
usually
has
from
differences.
my experience, and from my previous work that I have, I did with the heritage speakers. Usually, the first country that I know better is Italy.
Okay.
So I have studied there. I have my familiar there. I know the community. So this is the first country. But I don't know now that I will focus just in Italy or I will focus in other countries. But the first country, yeah, is Italy.
Okay, and the second question was actually regarding the methodology, but you say that you still didn't start working on that.
Yeah,
No?
yeah.
Yeah, so you only did the theoretical.
Yeah, just for my interest, I have wrote and read something and make interviews and questionnaire for with heritage speakers, with students at the different university of Italy, and with parents of those. So I have made this questionnaire, so talking and interviews with parents, but just for my interest, not for the PhD.
So these are only observations. You had
Observation just to know when I will throw in. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Yep. Thank you, Ledio and Angela. Any more questions, comments? No? Thank you very much then. Thank you, everyone. First, I'd like to thank our presenters. Thank you very much for your excellent presentations and very interesting. And thank you everyone in the room and online. And we hope to see you in other activities related to Albanian language, Albanian culture and history. Thank you very much. And have a lovely evening. Thank you.